right, good morning and good afternoon to everyone. My name is Randy Cole. I'm one of the three co-founders of Hempsana, currently holding the position of president and COO of the company. I want to thank everyone for joining us on this virtual investor conference. I know it's trying times and we continue to do a lot of virtual conferences and virtual meetings, so I think this is no different. As part of today's agenda, I wanted to give you guys a quick snapshot of where we are in the cannabis industry, touch upon some of the growing trends within the industry, provide an overview of Hempsana, our core competencies, and provide some background around the opportunity to invest with Hempsana. So Hempsana is a private Canadian cannabis extraction company that focuses on the extraction and production of cannabis derivatives. Our mission is simply to be the most trusted name in the cannabis derivatives industry. We specialize in the formulation of key active ingredients that are used for various cannabis and hemp-based products. Some examples of these are tincture bottles of CBD, capsules of CBD, and recently we are seeing new products such as CBD-infused beverages and CBD-infused topical creams. There's a long list of growing innovative new products coming our way as well. Hempsana has built an ISO 8 EU GMP compliant facility that can be processing over 400,000 kilograms of hemp biomass per year. We believe we are one of the largest hemp processing facilities here in Canada. We've been approved for 3 global licenses. The first license is a standard processing license approved by Health Canada, which allows us to process hemp or cannabis flower into various derivatives such as distillate and isolate. The second license is an industrial hemp license approved by Health Canada as well, which provides the ability to purchase, import, export hemp plants and seeds into and out of Canada. The third license is an approval from the Hungarian Pharma Authority. This allows us to process hemp biomass for the purpose of exporting CBD oil into the neighboring European countries. We've established many strategic partnerships and joint venture agreements that have allowed us to secure over 500,000 kilograms of hemp biomass for processing and over 700,000 kilograms of sales agreements as part of our extraction as a service offering. If we look at the cannabis market here in Canada, we see that the industry as a whole has grown exponentially. The year that Canada legalized recreational cannabis was in 2018. The market was just over $500 million. And over the course of the last 20 months, we've seen enormous growth of over 150% and the valuation of $2.2 billion as of this spring. These numbers are just staggering, and we see a lot of growth perspective for the cannabis industry, especially considering some of the challenges that the Canadian cannabis industry has faced over the last 2 years, such as the lack of retail stores in Ontario. If we look at the current global market of the cannabis industry, we see that currently in 2020, the global market is just over $15 billion in value. Prohibition Partners forecast that by 2025, with tailwinds, with short-term tailwinds, including the expected rescheduling of cannabis by the World Health Organization this December, the cannabis market is poised to be growing up to $200 billion. This is an average of over 250% year over year for the next 5 years. I'm sure many of you have been following the US elections as well, although the voting results are still incomplete. Based on the electoral votes counted for thus far, we anticipate that Joe Biden will be elected as the next US president. We believe that this is going to be additional support for the cannabis market, as Biden has expressed support for the legalization of cannabis in the US, which should provide additional tailwinds to the growth and acceleration of the cannabis market. A major contributor to this projected growth is the anticipated explosion of cannabis 2.0 and 3.0 products, which exploits new ways to consume cannabis and hemp products. Prior to the legalization of the majority of cannabis consumers and prior to legalization, the majority of cannabis consumers purchase flower-based products. When we look at the current trends in the cannabis market, we see that cannabis 2.0 products are starting to move into various segments. We look at the food beverage industry, look at the cosmetics, personal care, hygiene products such as CBD lotions. We also have the first FDA-approved CBD pharmaceutical in Epidiolex. And we expect that this wave of pharmaceutical products will lead the growth over the next few years. Hempsana is very excited for this growth opportunity because all of the products listed above have one thing in common. The products all require the cannabis or hemp flower to be processed and refined into an oil or powder as a key active ingredient. As a result, what we're seeing is that a new trend is forming. In the past, consumers preferred flower-based products. With the variety of ways in which these products can be consumed, we're seeing a significant shift towards oil-based products. In fact, in 2017, only 35% of the cannabis products consumed were oil-based. But as we look at last year's numbers, we see the number has increased to 50%. We believe within the next 2 years, oil-based products will dominate the cannabis and hemp market space. This trend provides Hempsana a great vantage point to take advantage of this growth. Hempsana has built a well-balanced management team that has experience in building companies and a track record on execution, and successfully growing multinational companies across a wide spectrum of industries. To highlight a few of them, our CEO, Soham Manna, has 30 plus years of experience running with largest biopharmaceutical, medical, food, and cannabis testing company at Eurofins. Doug Somerville, who's our director of Hempsana, is the former head of Canada for the largest generic pharmaceutical company in the world, Teva Pharmaceuticals. Our chief science officer, Dr. Azel, who has a PhD from a world-renowned university, ETH Zurich, has developed proprietary extraction technologies and has built and operated over 6 cannabis extraction labs in the US over the last 10 years. He's considered a pioneer in this industry. Together, our team has over 100 years in building and growing companies in big pharma, energy, manufacturing, and retail industries. So how does Hempsana build a competitive edge and monetize on all of this? First and foremost, our company has spent the last 12 to 18 months investing in time and in money on technologies that will provide us a competitive edge, and have carved out a niche market where we look to be a dominant player in the hemp derivative space. With our wealth of execution experience and broad industry experience, we are razor focused on being the largest and most cost-effective hemp extraction company here in Canada. Our goal is to become the lowest cost producer of hemp-derived cannabinoids. Dr. Azel brings with him a long resume of cannabis experience, not only in the extraction and purification of cannabis, but as well provides access to disruptive technologies in the cannabis industry, which we intend to use and exploit here in Canada. We'll be rolling out various service offerings that will cater to licensed producers and end product manufacturers across the supply chain. Some of the service offerings we'll be offering as part of this and part of our monetization plan is extraction as a service, which is a service to produce distillate oil and isolate powder. Refinement as a service, which is a service to further refine and purify oils or powders. Remediation as a service, which is a service to separate cannabinoids. This is especially helpful for companies that are in countries that have zero tolerance for THC, such as the Asian countries and China in particular. Manufacturing as a service, which is a white labeling service for various branding companies. As mentioned earlier, our management team was built around execution. And as we look at our operation team ramping up for production, which we anticipate in the coming weeks, we've secured an extraction as a service contract with a Quebec entity that is strategically aligned with a large hemp farming group and a pharmaceutical company that manufactures various cannabis 2.0 products. This contract is over a 2-year term, which guarantees $28.8 million in revenue and upwards of $60 million in revenue if we look to expand our production footprint to support their demand. We have also engaged a UK-based CBD company and solidified an agreement to pursue the launch of 3 co-branded CBD end products in the cosmeceutical sector of the cannabis industry. And we anticipate to pilot the 3 co-branded products in the second half of 2021. Actually, we found some samples that were delivered to us today. This is a CBD tincture bottle. We have some muscle relaxant balms. We also have some muscle rub as well. So some of these products we've already have samples for that we'll be launching in 2021. In order to build on the momentum that our management team has been able to execute on, the team over the next year will continue to deliver on existing contracts with an outlook on expanding the contracts alongside our strategic partners. We have started executing on our expansion plans to scale out our extraction as a service offering and expanding our facility capacity to support our growing list of partners that are looking to leverage our manufacturer as a service platform as part of their white labeling and co-packing businesses. This includes strategic partners. We have formed relationships in countries such as China, Korea, Germany, Jamaica, and the US. We believe that Hempsana provides a great investment opportunity to potential investors. Since the inception of our company, we have 3 global licenses in hand, a large state-of-the-art extraction facility, and most importantly, line of sight on a revenue of close to $30 million, which we anticipate to begin December of this year, which will provide some positive cash flow immediately. With that being said, what I wanted to do is provide some details around the non-brokered private placement opportunity that we have at hand. The offering is an investment of up to $8 million Canadian. We'll be offering over 10 million units at 75 cents per unit. The unit consists of 1 common share as well as 1 full warrant exercisable at $1.50. We're currently looking to close the first tranche, but the closing of the financing will be by the end of November in its entirety. From a valuation perspective, we've seen price compressions on multiples for publicly traded companies in the cannabis industry really get compressed in 2020. However, in the recent weeks, we've seen signs of recovery as we're seeing institutional money and an increase in deal flow in the cannabis industry again. We believe in 2021, we'll see enormous valuation growth as the US legalization of cannabis will trigger large institutional capital to finally start flowing into the industry, as well as an uptick in M&A activity as we start to see the large corporations aggressively positioning themselves as the regulatory framework begins to become more clear. Based on the enterprise value over EBITDA multiples, our peers currently trade between multiples of 4.8 and 7.4, which we believe are fundamentally sound valuations. There are no more frothy valuations in this industry anymore. In comparison, Hempsana's current valuation of $12.5 million Canadian provides an enterprise value over EBITDA multiple of less than 1 times. The growth potential in the current valuation of our company provides a really good value for our investors. It also provides a great entry point for any investor interested in the cannabis sector. For our pre-money valuation of 12.5 million Canadian dollars, it's based on a very tight share structure of 16.6 million common shares outstanding. We're targeting a Q2 2021 public listing using a reverse takeover vehicle. As such, we'll be closing on a deal with a Canadian shell company shortly and look to execute on listing requirements for Q2 of 2021. With revenue support and an anticipated lift in the cannabis sector, we anticipate a very successful public listing come next year. I wanted to thank everyone for your time this morning and afternoon. If you have any additional questions or would like to participate on this private placement before we go public, please feel free to email me at randy@hempsana.ca. I just wanted to make sure you guys see that it's a .ca. A lot of people have been emailing us at .com and getting some emails bounced back. So if you're interested, please email me at randy@hempsana.ca. Thank you.
Thank you, Andy. We have a few questions here for you. The first one from Megan. Did COVID affect your business early in the year?
Actually, the COVID situation at first, obviously deal flow started to slow down just because of the risk adversity that companies were going through. But what has happened is it allowed us to gain some partnerships across globally. We did a lot of virtual conference calls, and so allowed us to be able to not travel, but really pack our days with virtual conference calls, and actually allowed us to accelerate some of our ventures quite quickly.
Okay, and the next one is asking you, how about the different markets? Are you going to break into the US market? So we saw some changes in the state policies recently.
Yeah, actually, we are strategically aligned with a company out of Arizona that does processing out there. So we already have some partnerships out there. We are definitely looking at the regulatory framework in the US and have been for the last 12 to 18 months. So yes, we are definitely looking at opportunities in the US.
Okay, and this is how much money have you raised privately so far since the beginning? And
yes.
Who are their shareholders mainly? Is that mainly high net worth people?
Yeah, so our first raise was with it was a friends and family round. We raised $2.4 million, which is about spring of 2020. I mean, sorry, spring of, yeah, just in spring of 2020, $2.4 million. It was mostly high net worth investors. We did have a Canadian institutional money flow in from a cannabis income fund. So yes, it was a mix, a little bit of both. Our current raise is focused a little bit more on the institutional investors.
Okay, and this is from Kyle. And any sort of strategy for the Asian markets or partnerships potential?
Right now, actually, we are strategically aligned and have an MOU that's being finalized with a very large Chinese manufacturing company that deals in the agricultural space. One of the things that we're working on is providing a footprint around how to develop agricultural extraction processes, not just around the flower, but the entire plant. So we are engaging with this manufacturing company to build out a 30,000 square foot pilot facility that will take the whole hemp plant and monetize the whole hemp plant, not just the CBD components, but the fiber, the stems, and the different leaves. So yes, we are strategically aligned. We hope to announce this partnership in the next quarter.
Okay, a couple more. One from Peter. Are you in operations right now? What's sort of the revenue outlook here?
Yeah, as I mentioned in the presentation, we are weeks away from production. We are piloting right now with regards to our biomass, and we're testing out our new equipment that we've installed. We should see revenue start to flow in December of this year. And as I mentioned in our presentation, the term that we're looking at for our initial tolling agreement is worth $24.4 million. So we definitely see that coming and starting in December.
Okay, the last one here. Obviously, he said, "How can I buy your shares?" I think maybe he would like to potentially invest in your company. He can contact you. It's called Tony. And what sort of timeline that you are now looking at your listing here too?
Yeah, so again, if you guys see it on the presentation, you can email me, Randy, RANDY at hempsana.ca. We are looking at closing this round in November, end of this month, November 30th.
Okay, so it's coming up pretty soon.
Yeah.
Yep. So I think we're here with that. We're it for today for Randy's session, and thank you for your time, giving us update again. I think there's lots of interest coming in, so we'll direct any inquiries to you after the show. Thank you,
All right.
Randy.
Thanks, Gilbert.